Hello.
Hello. Oh, mommy, you're London.
Mambe.
Oh, okay, me. Oh, mommy, you're London, no.
Auntie Becky Anna.
Hey, this okay, me. Hey, what to say?
Hey,
Ayo, me who watch it. No, be what to say with you.
oh, Yamia Domobia Hoye, and I also.
Ah, you done your miasi. Hey, but so why your mommy penny?
Oh, and I made us.
Hey, baby, when you baby, madam for be bagana.
Hey, sir.
Timmy John, I'm a your supplies.
Sir?
Aye. Shoe size ben now, she.
38.
Oh, me tall 40 close.
Oh, and the case, what's me, Ashe?
Oh, sir.
Hey.
Natalie.
And this size 12.
Hey, I didn't even know pepe.
Oh, yeah,
Madam for no bedroom Ghana 4 days new.
Okay.
It's make a chance on for what? Me money kaka.
Hey, that's very
Tiny shoes in kwa. It's kaka cribishimu. And more be on Sase.
and one knee.
Over for what?
You what I say?
Hey,
I'm sure.
Yo, bye bye.
Bye. Hey.
Where Gina? Gina, but there's no confirm Bona. I've been calling you, sir. I'm not picking a call.
I was on a call. Do you know what has happened?
I don't know. Me.
See that my auntie that I said that she's in London like 15 years now. I've not heard from her. She just called me.
Where did you go and sleep?
Ask me. I don't even know.
Is she coming to take you?
No. But she's sending us things.
No, wait.
Why have you stopped?
Wait. Gina, Nego auntie, when she called you, did she mention any other person's name?
I don't remember anything like that. But how does that matter?
Matter so. Use Moicho. This is the new way people are using to fraud people.
Fraud?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Come on, go me like am I sure?
Wait, she said the person will call me in 5 minutes time.
Yo, boy, about what they want to pay? Can't a man to any yo ya? I'm not gonna waste my time.
Wait, you're talking. Hello? Yes, this is Gina. Man say you're bringing me the things.
Your mama and your master men for mom.
Intimidating and your mano.
Oh, me will be a year yet deliver mammy intimidating your man yabe mano. Not the bishia why.
Oh, okay, with us.
Would they mean yako? Mamma for back.
Yo, I should have seen this viola.
Mommy, offer a family and what it.
I should have seen this view. She'll come back right now.
Wait. This woman, I mean, believe ye. Let's call a query here. What query?
Wait, me, I believe so. Wait. Yes, hello.
Hello. Yenya problem kakribio.
Hey, problem be.
Papa no ordin your man bano wenya force kakribina.
Fault be.
Ohia emwa. Sisia de min kiteska me so ameni mobile money. Inti se obetimi am wano eya na me de usika na ma.
I don't put in the papa no.
Car tire na pai.
Ne car tire pie. Into here be assessing.
Ohia be se 200 cedis.
200 cedis. Oh, yeah, patch me, but my fault.
No, but you have to Ghana. That's the problem, sister. What they want to the cantaman do.
Let's read question.
Query here. Charlie.
Hello. Patrol say me auntie Ben and see fan your money brem Caruana.
Aye.
Na se first was Belinda.
Dabi ne kalu.
And also fan your money brem me.
Aye.
Patrol me din the same.
Madam, your man open answer won't.
Hey, oh dear, you pen your money be keep you.
Oh, Aden.
Oh, keep you. Uncle answers 25 different. Aden. Hello. Aisha.
Hello. Hey, me in favor. Hey, Charlie. Carlos Gade. Be smart. Use Oyito. Don't become a victim of mobile money fraud. Stay safe.
pacho me am very quick. Here Jamestown, British Accra. Wo ya. Ni wo ni wo ya. Bia ne wo use phone wa e wo nu tumo mi. E ko la gaji wo te wo ni wo machine e gba ona. Wo nyi wo use phone ke ba shpo. Bona fe. Ni kaji abaje shpo na ba help wo keke wona. Enyo no wo nyi wo use phone ekwe ke ha ekwe wo fe mo e aja wo nyi wo apre go techi lo ostama lo nyanyanu ona bona fe ni shpo bi ame na agachi wo ben show yin ke ga ma me ametui enyo ame no wo use wo ke ha wo customers kaji wo ke lo e ba phone wo wa ga twa ame ni ame ba ni wo go tu on lo gbagjan lo to mobile phone help me wa leche.
Hello.
Hello. Mama in your London.
Mambe.
Oh, okay me. Mama, your London no.
Auntie Becky Anna.
Hey, we so okay me. Hey, what to say? Ayo, me who watch no be what to say with you.
Oh, nyami adomo bia ho ye na wo so e.
Ah, ye dan nyami ase. Hey, but say why your mommy penny.
Oh, nyami ye das.
Hey, baby, when you baby, madam for be bagana.
Hey, sir.
Me John, I'm a your supplies.
Sir?
Aye. Shoe size ben now, she.
38.
Oh, me tall 40 close.
Oh, in the case, what's me a share?
Oh, sir.
Eh.
Natari.
And this size 12.
Hey, I didn't even yan pepe.
Oh, really?
Madam for no bedroom Ghana 4 days new.
Okay.
It's make a chance on for what? Me money kaka.
Hey, that's vexed.
Tiny shoes in kwa. Kaka cribishimu. Mo be on Sati.
Matilda.
That's your number.
And one knee.
Over for a while.
You want to that's it.
Yo, bye bye.
Bye. Hey.
Where Gina? What no confirm Bona. I've been calling you, sir. I'm not picking a call.
I was on a call. Do you know what has happened?
I don't know. Me.
See that my auntie that I said that she's in London like 15 years now. I've not heard from her. She just called me.
Where did you go and sleep?
Ask me. I don't even know.
Is she coming to take you?
No. But she's sending us things.
No, wait.
Why have you stopped?
Wait. Gina. Nego auntie, when she called you, did she mention any other person's name?
I don't remember anything like that. But how does that matter?
Matter so. Use Moicho. This is the new way people are using to fraud people.
Fraud?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Come on, go me like am I sure?
Wait, she said the person will call me in 5 minutes time.
Yo, boy, about what they want can't me yo ya. Not gonna waste my time.
Wait, you're talking. Hello? Yes, this is Gina. Man say you're bringing me the things.
Your mama nyama se me fama.
Intimating and your mano.
Oh, me will be a yaw yet deliver mammy intimate nyama nyabe mano. Not the bishia why.
Oh, okay, with us.
Would they menyako? Mamma fro back.
I should have seen this viola.
Mommy, offer a femo ya knew what
I should have seen this view. She'll come back right now.
Wait. This woman, I mean, believe ye. Let's call and query her. What query?
Wait, me, I believe so. Wait. Yes, hello.
Hello. Yenya problem kakribio.
Hey, problem me.
Papa no ordin your money bano wenya force kakribina.
Fault ben.
Ohia emwa. Sisia de min kiteska me so ameni mobile money inti se obetimi am wano eya na me de usika na ma.
I don't put in the pano.
Car tire na pai.
Ne car tire pie. Into here be assessing.
Ohia be se 200 cedis.
200 cedis. Oh yeah, patch me by my phone.
No, but you are Ghana. That's the poor sister. What they one city can't amount to.
Let's read question.
Query her. Charlie.
Hello. Patrol se me auntie Ben si fan your money brem Caruana.
Aye.
Ah, na se first was Belinda.
Dabi ne kalu.
And also fan your money brem me.
Aye.
Patrol me din the same.
Eh, madam, your man no pe anase wompe.
Hey, Odi, I am penny your money be keep you.
Oh, ade.
Oh, keep you. Uncle answers 25 different. Aden. Hello. Hello. Aisha.
Hello. Hey, me favor. Hey, Chale. Carlos Gade. Be smart. Use Oyito. Don't become a victim of mobile money fraud. Stay safe.
Charlie, what's up? Every day get filler, what's up?
Oh my guy. Oh Charlie, I get feel I give you. Guess who sent me a message on Facebook?
Why? Dr. Hugh or Patapa?
Oh my guy. What do you mean by Patapa? Why Patapa go send a message? Me the hand this. Charlie, guess again.
I beg, if you don't get anything better, do live.
Charlie, Sadio Mane send me message.
Sadio what?
Mane.
Sadio Mane.
Yes,
Sadio Mane I know.
Of course.
The Sadio Mane where they play for Liverpool.
Thank you. We not say my favorite footballer. We not say I love him. I follow for all social media hand for Yahoo, for Twitter, for Instagram, for everywhere.
Yeah.
My guy, he sent me message say they appreciate me. Wow. So he sent me the just way where take play the Champions League final. He take send me.
Massa, why get feeling say this thing go feel be fraud?
I know be fraud. You just they jealous me. You they jealous me.
Jealous.
Your celebrity ever send you a message before?
I hear you.
Look, if he send me some number, he say make I call the guy.
He send you number.
Oh my guy, he just say send me. He didn't party being there for Ghana. See this. You can call the person and arrange plans and then take the package. They call him, be relax. Call him.
No, put them for speak out.
Come, here they go.
Hello?
Hello, good morning, sir. Is this Mr. Brown?
Yes. Who am I speaking with?
My name is Joe, sir. Sadio Mane gave me your contact.
Ah, Mr. Joe. Yes. Good to hear from you. Sadio has been mentioning your name.
Hey, wow, this is exciting, sir. Sir, he said he gave you a parcel to give to me.
Yes, but we have a small challenge. There was a small challenge with some of the things we were bringing. The charges had increased, but I didn't know, so I was not able to pay for all. Your package is with the clearing agent. If you can kindly pay for the clearance, I will arrange for you to get it.
Please, I don't understand, sir.
We need to pay a small amount to pick up the package. Only 150 cedis.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, Massa, please, where are you?
I'm in Accra.
We have the money. Why don't you bring the package over so we give it to you?
I'm sorry, you only have to pay via mobile money. I don't take cash.
Oh, you won't take cash. Yes, hello?
Hello?
Massa, please, I'll ask you some few questions. I want to verify something. What team does Sadio Mane play for?
Do you want the package or not?
No, please answer the question. I want to show my friend here something.
Liverpool.
Okay, that's right. So, what country does he come from?
If you don't want the package, just say it. There are people who want to pay for it and take it.
Boss, are you selling it or what?
Look, it's just 150 cedis. If you cannot send 150 cedis, then you won't get it.
Mother, please, what is your name?
Why do you want to know?
I want to know so I know the name to mention to the police when they are coming to grab you.
Foolish boys.
Hello? See your face. I'll be at telling say be fake. Charlie, don't lose guard. Be smart. And don't become a victim of mobile money fraud. Stay safe.
Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications. All of us use one of these, or that, or this, or that. The mobile industry is not static, and due to its dynamism, new things keep happening that takes customers unawares. With complaints ranging from my phone is not working, I have been wrongly charged, someone has stolen my credits, to fraudsters trying to con Momo customers. So from the last Tuesday of every other month, we're kickstarting an online series dubbed Chamber Dialogue. We intend to use this dialogue to inform, share, using seasoned subject matter experts. And of course, you. We are confident this activity will deepen your knowledge and insights and help you make better and informed decisions about your mobile phone. At the end of all these interactions, we would wish to see an industry where customers love the culture of do-it-yourself, that's the DIY, rather than the existing norm, DIFM, do it for me. Come with me.
Your friend is Isaac. We were London market. Me ye juma me sasa bidie ni ebro. Me ye ebro waka mu bidie waka mu. Na me use phone. Phone na me use no de ye juma pa. Ai na nkrofo hia me a o mo de frefre me. Yetumi frem wo Tama station. Nungwa tashi labad achimota me koyi load. Ejuma me ye no obi a hia me a o frefre me e wo phone so. Nti me phone ya ade bia me nkonja no. Ebu kura me niska kura me tumi tiwa na matare me phone e bele. Ma pick ya na sikwe size ejuma be pio achimoto na ma fla boys na me no me yejo no na yakoyi yekoyi kura na se wenye skin twa ya kakura ye betumi aba obetumi da send mo mobile money mobile phone help me wa
Hello.
Hello. Uma minio London.
Mambe.
Oh, okay me. Uma me. Nyo London no.
Auntie Becky Anna.
Hey, we so okay me. Hey, what to say? Ayo, me who watch no be what to say with you.
Oh, nyami adomo bia hoye na wo so e.
Ah, ye dan nyami ase. Hey, but say why your mommy penny.
Oh, nyami yedas.
Hey, baby. Oni baby, madam for be Ghana.
Hey, sir.
Time John na me say me your supplies.
Sir?
Aye. Shoe size be now she.
38.
Oh, me to 40 close.
Oh, in the case, what's me a share?
Oh, sir.
Hey.
Natari.
And this size 12.
Hey, I didn't even yan pepe.
Oh, really?
Madam for no bedroom Ghana 4 days new.
Okay.
It's make a chance on for what? Me mani akula kaka.
Hey, that's vexing.
Tiny shoes in kwa. Kaka kribishimu. Mo bia hu so ase.
Mate. And one ni.
Obefra what?
Mate, that's it. Hey, sure.
Yo, bye bye.
Bye. Hey.
Where Gina? What does no confirm with Bona? I've been calling you, sir. I'm not picking a call.
I was on a call. Do you know what has happened?
I don't know.
See that my auntie that I said that she's in London like 15 years now. I've not heard from her. She just called me.
Where did you go and sleep?
Ask me. I don't even know.
Is she coming to take you?
No. But she's sending us things.
No, wait.
Why have you stopped?
Wait. Gina. Neko auntie, when she called you, did she mention any other person's name?
I don't remember anything like that. But how does that matter?
Matter so. Use Moicho. This is the new way people are using to fraud people.
Fraud?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Come on, go me like am I sure?
Wait, she said the person will call me in 5 minutes time.
Yo, boy, about what they want you can't man to any yo ya. Not gonna waste my time.
Wait. Hello? Yes, this is Gina. Man say you're bringing me the things.
Your mama nyama se me fama.
Intimate nyama no.
Oh, me will be a yaw yet deliver mammy intimate nyama nya be mano. Not the be sure why.
Okay with us.
Would they menyako? Mama from back.
Yo, I should have seen this viola.
Mommy, over an FMO, I know what they.
I should have seen this view. She'll come back right now.
Wait. This woman, I mean, believe ye. Let's go and query her. What query?
Wait, me, I believe so. Wait. Yes, hello.
Hello. You have problem, Kakribio.
Hey, problem, me.
Papa no ordin your money bano. When your force Kakribina.
Fault, Ben.
On here, moi. Sisia de min kiteska, me so ameni mobile money. Inti se obetimi am. Wano na me de usika na ma.
I don't put in the pano.
Car tire na pai.
The car tire pie. Into here, Bessie.
Oh, here bears 200 cedis.
200 cities. Oh, yeah, patch me, but my fault.
No, was you to Ghana? That's the poor back sister. What they one city can't amount to.
Let's read question.
Query her. Charlie.
Hello. Patrol say me auntie Ben and see fan your money brem Caruana.
Aye.
Na se first was Belinda.
Dabi ne kalu.
And also fan your money brem me.
Aye.
Patrol me din the same.
Madam, your man open answer won't
Hey, Udia, you may pen your money be keep you.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh, keep you. Unqual answers 25 different. Adding. Hello. Hello. Aisha.
Hello. Hey, me favor. Hey, Charlie. Carlos Gade. Be smart. Use Oyito. Don't become a victim of mobile money fraud. Stay safe.
Charlie, what's up? Every day get filler, what's up?
Oh my guy. Charlie, I get filler give you. Guess who sent you a message on Facebook?
Why? Dr. Hugh or Patapa?
Oh my guy. What do you mean by Patapa? Why Patapa go send a message? Me the hand this. Charlie, guess again.
I beg, if you don't get anything better, do live.
Charlie, Sadio Mane send me message.
Sadio what?
Mane.
Sadio Mane.
Yes,
Sadio Mane I know.
Of course.
The Sadio Mane where they play for Liverpool.
Thank you. We not say my favorite footballer. We not say I love him. I follow for all social media handles, for Yahoo, for Twitter, for Instagram, for everywhere.
Yeah.
My guy, he sent me message say they appreciate me. Wow. So he sent me the just way where take play the Champions League final. He take send me.
Masa, why get feeling say this thing go feel be fraud?
I know be fraud. You just they jealous me. You they jealous me. Your celebrity ever send you a message before?
I hear you.
Look, if he send me some number, if he make a call the guy.
He send you number.
Oh my guy, just say send me. They ain't party being there for Ghana. See this. You can call the person and arrange plans and then take the package.
They call him, relax. Call him.
No, put them for speak out.
Come, here go. Hello, good morning, sir. Is this Mr. Brown?
Yes. Who am I speaking with?
My name is Joe, sir. Sadio Mane gave me your contact.
Ah, Mr. Joe. Yes. Good to hear from you. Sadio has been mentioning your name.
Hey, wow, this is exciting, sir. Sir, he said he gave you a parcel to give to me.
Yes, but we have a small challenge. There was a small challenge with some of the things we were bringing. The charges had increased, but I didn't know, so I was not able to pay for all. Your package is with the clearing agent. If you can kindly pay for the clearance, I will arrange for you to get it.
Please, I don't understand, sir.
We need to pay a small amount to pick up the package. Only 150 cedis.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, Masa, please, where are you?
I'm in Accra.
We have the money. Why don't you bring the package over so we give it to you?
I'm sorry, you only have to pay via mobile money. I don't take cash.
Oh, you won't take cash. Yes, hello?
Hello?
Masa, please, I'll ask you some few questions. I want to verify something. What team does Sadio Mane play for?
Do you want the package or not?
No, please answer the question. I want to show my friend here something.
Liverpool.
Okay, that's right. So, what country does he come from?
If you don't want the package, just say it. There are people who want to pay for it and take it.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Okay, I'd like to welcome you to our Knowledge Forum series. Do you mind if we just bow our heads and take a quick prayer? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this morning. We thank you for this gathering. We thank you for a time to discuss key issues of national interest. We pray that whatever we will do here today shall be in your will. We pray for all our stakeholders who are here, those who are coming, those who are watching us online. We pray that you shall give us peace and understanding to have a good meeting and be able to make the right decisions for this country. We pray, Almighty God, that every discussion that we have here shall go further to advance the cause of this country, and we pray that you shall be with us together till the end of this meeting. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I'd like to welcome you once again to our 17th Knowledge Forum series. My name is Derek Lai, and I'll be the MC for this event. This morning, we'd like to say that if you are here, we are grateful to make time to be here, especially when we are navigating different variants of the pandemic as we know it. I'd like to recognize a few stakeholders, and then also I know a couple of institutions that are here and will take comments. So as and when I recognize you and I mention your name or I mention your institution, we'd like to take a few comments from you. These are comments in relation to your expectations. This bill is not, it's a bill in motion, or it's an act in motion, or a law in motion now. And for a lot of key stakeholders who are here, some of us are still navigating the full effect of this law. And so we thought as an industry, why don't we come together, have a conversation on some of the key areas of the law. This is the Cyber Security Act 2020, as we know it, Act 1038. And for those who are watching online who might hear the sound of this for the first time, it's not a new law. We know a celebrity got a 90-day jail term because of this law. So some of the issues related in here are of key interest to the public and are also of key interest to businesses. And that's why we're having this forum. So I believe that everybody here or everybody watching us has a key interest in these discussions, and would also take comments online. So if you're watching us online, if you have questions, if you type them out, we'll definitely be able to provide answers from you, from the key stakeholders that are here. This morning, I'd like to recognize our key guest speaker, Dr. Albert Intribosi-Akun. A round of applause for him. I also like to recognize my boss and Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, Dr. Engineer Kenneth Ashigbe. I had to earn my salary for this month. I'd like to recognize Mr. Raymond Bully from Institute of, did I miss it? Okay. Financial and Economic Journalist, right? Thank you. Raymond, if you might, a few comments from you, if you don't mind. Sure. A round of applause for him, please.
Okay. Good morning. In the mid-80s, around about 1983, Liberia had a CID commissioner who was a known criminal. You would ask why I'm talking about this. This man was able to solve many of the problems that happened around the city and around the country because he was a criminal before, so he knew all the way what the criminals could do and how they could think. So, as we talk about cybercrime, we need to also use hackers who are ethical. Ethical hackers are are very good. And if you are able to get a school of ethical hackers, you'll be able to solve many of the cyber crimes that happen in our country. I leave this thought to all of you, and I'm hoping that when we put the law together, we should make place for people who can help us to catch the thieves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bully, and that's a very important perspective before we kickstart the conversations. I also like to recognize Madam Cynthia Akafia from Airtel Tigo. Any representative from Airtel Tigo, you want to make a few comments? Yes, please, you can come. It wasn't supposed to be you. You want to make it from there? Okay, sure.
Thank you very much. So, just to buttress what Mr. Bule said, because that was what came screaming at me, seriously. We have the Cyber Security Act, but to look at it in a holistic way, we have to see where the loopholes are. So, in talking about this act and the way forward or how it can help us, we have to involve hackers as well, ethical hackers, to see where the loopholes are. They say when you call in workers to come and fix your burglar proof and all those, you should make sure that they know how to rectify when it's going to be cut or who can cut it and all that. So let us also look at the ethical hackers to involve them in the promotion of this act so that we can have a holistic approach to the acts that will work for us.
Thank you very much, Airtel Tigo. I know we have also MTN. MTN, you'd like to make a quick comment? Angie. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. So I'm here with my colleague, Doreen. So Doreen will make a few comments and I'll add on.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So we are all aware that the internet and then the world of telecoms, it's no longer the safe haven that we once perceived it to be. So it's good that as a country we have a Cybersecurity Act that will help shape how our industries are going to organize themselves and then act going forward. So I believe it's a good thing that the country has.
And just to add on, I think we all know that COVID has also accelerated digital transformation or the need for digital transformation in a very fast way. We know that the future is about platforms, it's about softwares, it's about apps. And so from where we sit as an industry, I think it's very timely that this act has also come into place. And it's also very good to see how we can continue to collaborate with government to make sure that in all this digital wave going on, the industry is able to proactively support government's initiative to protect the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Angie as well from MTN. Okay, I think the microphone has already been handed to Vodafone.
Hi, I'm Nanaba from Vodafone. So I would let Johnson speak and then I'll speak.
Oh, okay. It's almost becoming
Thank you, Nanaba. I'm Johnson from Vodafone. We are very excited for this forum because it's been a long journey. I remember with Dr. Entry done. We've had a series of forums and now the law is here. We pray that all stakeholders will be able to implement it to the fullest. Thank you.
So what I would like to add is one thing to have the law, and it's another thing to actually understand and be able to properly use the law. So for me, I'm looking at how we can fully understand the requirements and then the protection that it will give to the business community.
Applause for Vodafone. Thank you very much. I know we also have KPMG. We have a couple of media guests here as well. So as and when, maybe I will just signal. You just signal me and then I'll introduce you and then you can say a few words as well. So once again, sorry for the late start, but
we'll continue from here. We'd like to take keynote remarks from Dr. Engineer Kenneth Ashigbe. A round of applause from Doc.
Thank you very much, Derek. You know that your salary is not tied to any title, so it's rather tied to delivering. Thank you very much. The National Cyber Security Advisor, Dr. Albert Nchibwe-Siakun, members of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, invited guests, my colleagues from the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen who are online also watching, good morning to all of you. I'd want to welcome all of us to the 17th edition of our quarterly knowledge forum geared towards influencing, educating, and stimulating discussions related to the mobile and ICT industry, with the main objective of improving and understanding topical issues that confront the industry. Our topic today is on Ghana's new cyber security law. As Derek said, the Cyber Security Act 2020 Act 1038. For us, it's a critical piece of legislation that holds a lot of promise in this current fourth industrial revolutionary era of digital transformation. So it's very, very important that we do not make this discussion a technical conversation, but we'll speak to demystify all the legal and technical jargons in the context of our subject matter. In summary, we are seeking to provide answers to lingering questions around the new law, as well as enable the public further appreciate the importance of Act 1038 in their lives and that of the country. Permit me to congratulate the Honorable Minister for Communication and Digitalization and her team at the National Cyber Security Center, led by our keynote speaker, Dr. Albert Nchibwe-Siakun, for the significant feat of being ranked the third in Africa by the ITU. Ghana scored 86.69% for secure cyberspace and comes behind Mauritius and Tanzania in that order. For me, the significance of this achievement is not just the fact that Ghana leapfrogged from the 11th position to the 3rd, but also the fact that we attained a very high score of 87%, from as low as 33 and 44% in as recently as 2017 and 2018 respectively. So a move from 44% to 87% is really very significant. This will tell the world that we are ready for the fourth industrial revolution business. It is not only good for government, but also for the private sector, especially our industry. I am sure that the passage of the Cyber Security Act to provide a legal basis for the country's cyber security development and the institutionalization of cyber security to foster domestic cooperation and collaboration would have contributed to our attaining the 87% overall aggregate score when measured according to the 5 strategic pillars of the ITU's global cyber security agenda, namely legal measures, technical measures, organizational measures, capacity building, and international cooperation. Dr. Nchibwe-Siakun, please convey to the Honorable Minister our congratulations and commitment of the members of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications to continue to work with you to ensure that we maintain the accelerated pace we have taken and attain 100% status in the near future. The first position globally is in reach, but it would require the continued collective and collaborative leadership that has brought us this far. Over the course of just a few decades, the world has entered a digital age. People from all over the planet are connected online. It's about the 3 C's. It's connection, it's communication, and it's change. By way of comparison, in 1996, only 36 million use the internet, about 1% of the world's population. By the end of 2020, more than 4.5 billion people now use the internet, while social media users have passed the 3.8 billion mark. Putting this in further perspective, nearly 60% of the world's population is already online, and the latest trend suggests that more than half of the world's total population would use social media by the middle of this year. But the boundless opportunities of digitalization come with serious challenges. Digital development without cybersecurity is not sustainable. You cannot rely on a tool that is not secure and cannot be trusted. Digital development cannot flourish when lack of support for the norms of responsible behavior is undermining global stability. The recent sprawling ransomware attack that hit hours before the beginning of 4th July holiday weekend by ReEvil, I don't know whether that's how we should mention their names, capital R and E and VIL, the same Russian language group who are demanding $70 million to unlock thousands of businesses affected by the hack. It is this same group who are behind the meat processor JBS's attack. This is a major challenge that the world has to grapple with. With the 4th industrial revolution shifting into high gear, such threats of malicious cyber activities is keeping pace with opportunities presented by AI, 5G, and now they are even contemplating 6G by 2030, and quantum computing. Ghana has passed the landmark Cybersecurity Act at the end of last year, and the National Cybersecurity Center is expected to transition into the Cybersecurity Authority in the coming weeks per Section 2 of Act 1038 to regulate cybersecurity activities in the country and further lead Ghana's cybersecurity development. The law as we know it would also lead to the protection of critical information infrastructure of the country, regulate cybersecurity activities, and offer protection for children on the internet, as well as developing Ghana's cyber ecosystem. We are also aware that this new law is also targeted at positioning Ghana to prevent, manage, and respond to cybersecurity incidents in the view of our digital transformation agenda. As an industry, we were graciously tied to the process that led to the development and passage of this law. Indeed, the tireless and strenuous efforts showcased by the team at the National Cybersecurity Center cannot go without mention by the industry, and we are continuously grateful for their show of professionalism and commitment to work with the industry in actioning the core components of the Act. An important declaration by the new law is classifying telecommunication and ICT infrastructure as critical national information infrastructure, and it is key for the growth and sustainability of the mobile industry. It is important to state that the mobile industry today is reeling under the menace of fiber cuts, diesel theft, vandalism, and theft of equipment, delivering service to millions of Ghanaians by the second. We would really want to sound a note of warning to all road contractors and other stakeholders who operate within the right of way, including the contractors who work not too far away from here on the Beach Road project, who in recent days have just been with reckless abandon destroying our fiber cables. Their time is near, and they would find themselves at the wrong side of Act 1038 very, very soon. A declaration by the authority, when set up, leveraging existing laws, would ensure that there will be no tampering with the public core of the internet. Internet infrastructure should be regarded by everyone as the backbone of modern society. Undersea cables and other vital elements should be off limits and safeguarded by all of us. For an industry that provides vital communication and supports in numerous sectors, including driving financial inclusion, we trust that this might not be too much to ask. We are looking forward to other key discussions in the area of administration of the authority, as well as working with the authority and other existing regulators to tackle and manage any potential bureaucracies that might stifle growth within the multiple sectors of the economy when the center expands its reach and activates fully its objectives and goals. Cyber threats don't respect national borders. They are as transnational as, say, climate change or the ongoing global pandemic, COVID-19. Therefore, it's not enough to address threats solely at the national level or as a single regional organization. That is why Ghana's enactment of the new law is commendable and crucial to position it within the global bloc of nations keenly working towards the fight against cybercrime. A stable cyber domain contributes to a more stable society, a more stable democracy, and a more stable business environment. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, and our friends from the media, the name of the game is international multi-stakeholder collaborations and partnerships. Within Ghana, as we are doing today, we'll work together to boost resilience, set the rules of the road, improve the attribution of malicious acts, and hold those responsible to account to secure our digital space, to serve the cause of freedom and justice. These words of independence meant that all Ghanaians, men, women, old and young, have the right to enjoy life, liberty, and the opportunities to pursue happiness as they choose and within the laws of our country. A safe digital Ghana clearly is in line with our national motto. To end, as we, our colleagues and families remain safe, healthy and conscious of the fact that COVID-19 is still with us, we should use our current circumstance to strengthen our organizations, making them more resilient and conscientious, and elevate our professional offering by using the time and available resources to upscale and advance. Thank you all, and God bless our homeland, Ghana.
A round of applause, a better round of applause for Dr. Engineer Kenneth Ashigbe. A safe digital Ghana clearly is in line with our national motto. Thank you very much, Doc, for that opening remarks. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to make the time, we would like to invite our guest speaker who will be speaking on the topic, the new cybersecurity law, its implications on people and business. And that will be done by the head of the National Cybersecurity Center, Dr. Albert Entry-Bosiakon. A round of applause for Doc. Oh, a round of applause for the guest speaker, please. Thank you very much.
As Dr. Engineer Ken Ashigbe, members of the chamber, industry representatives, physical and virtual participants, a very good morning to all of you. I must say it's a privilege to be invited as a guest speaker to share our perspectives on an important development which has happened within our digital space. But before I commence with the presentation, I would like to recognize the leadership of His Excellency the President, and most importantly, the Sector Minister, Honorable Eslau Suekufu. Through their direction, we have made our mark as far as cybersecurity development is concerned. In other words, cybersecurity development in this country is driven by these individuals, together with the work of the Interministerial Advisory Council on Cybersecurity, represented by the Ministers of the Interior, Defense, Justice, Foreign Affairs, Finance, and an AG's office. We recognize their contribution to that, but also to the members of the Technical Working Group, represented by a number of agencies of state, but the private sector in particular, of which your chamber chief is an important stakeholder. But also our international partners, civil society groups have all been part of this process. And I think before we begin the proceedings, we'd like to recognize their leadership, their collaboration as far as Ghana's cybersecurity development is concerned. But I'm here at the invitation of the chamber. And Chief, permit me to recognize the contributions that you have made as a chamber to the development of the Cybersecurity Act. I'm happy our colleague, as from Vodafone, mentioned about the constant engagement we had on this particular project. As far as the consultations, input, and those things were concerned, we involve actively the industry players. And I'm happy to hear the feedback coming from your angle. But I think one particular attribution with respect to the work that has gone in from the chamber side is the inclusion of the section 81 and 82, which is the industry forum. I must say, this inclusion was an executive decision. This inclusion was made possible through the work of the private sector industry. And I think you should commend yourself for that. Please, a round of applause, Richard. Those of you who have read the Act, it's not just the inclusion of industry forum. But if you look at the governance of the authority, it requires 3 representatives from the industry forum to serve on the governing board of the authority. That's a major achievement for the private sector as far as our cybersecurity development is concerned. And it tells you how the private sector, including the chamber, have been instrumental in bringing best practices on board to develop our nation's cybersecurity development. We've worked together, and Engineer, I think you made a good score. You were refusing to accept financial contributions also from the chamber. I think I need to also put it squarely on the table. But I think, it was a healthy debate, and Parliament, in a bipartisan manner, accepted the work that was done and passed the bill into an act. I think that is also a major victory that a developing country like ours, it is always important to build consensus in establishing the fundamental pillars upon which our digital ecosystem is built. And I think the cybersecurity domain, we've been able to achieve that. And I want to thank you for that. Once again, I like the story of the suspected CID, or in the words of Sir Raymond, the known, as your word, criminal CID boss, who did a lot of work in sanitizing his country, which is also linked to the story of the hacker. That is very important, and I took my own notes. It's a big learning for all of us that we need to develop these talents, incorporate them into the broader framework of talent capacity building to deal with the issues that face us. But I also took note of expectations, and if I should summarize it, so one approach is a different thing having the law, but it's a different thing also seeing it to its successful implementation. Please, I take this as a feedback to take to the Honorable Minister, that yes, we know we've worked, ITU has given endorsement with a rating, but that is just a starting point. In fact, the minister will tell you, well, that is only the building block. This is her statement. You need to go implement and make sure that we sustain the current momentum. I think that is the expectation. So while it's a positive development, I don't think anybody is resting. As a matter of fact, it's rather a call for us to do what is needed, what is necessary across all board, across government side but also private sector players. And I think that calls for this particular discussion. At this point, I have some few slides to share with you. And I think for a knowledge forum of this nature, the engagement is more important. The viewpoint, the questions. So we allow much more time, my good friend Selai, to engage. I would like to take a lot of feedback to the minister, a lot of ideas, a lot of viewpoints, but I'll also be in a position to answer the question as far as it falls within my assigned responsibility. But let's proceed with what I have here on the slide. I think as an industry body, you are not new to the current happenings within the ecosystem. If we take the government side, a number of digital initiatives are taking place. Each one of these has its own maturity level. Some started, if you take mobile money interoperability system, I think that will be that will score a higher maturity in terms of its scope and the reach of our citizens. But we have almost every government system being digitalized. The Vice President made a point that in one particular government ministry, the Ministry of Tourism, revenue generation has increased by fourfold. That's quite amazing. And the government policy of Ghana Beyond Aid is firmly underpinned by digital transformation. So there's no question about we're expecting to see more of such development going forward. But let's look at the private sector. The fintech industry, you mentioned about that area, and I think, Ken, you're likely to give analysis in that area, how we are faring to, compared to Kenya and others. But I think within the last few years, there are major development in that area. The e-banking, cloud-based services, education sector because of COVID, e-learning systems, e-commerce development, e-health, and all the E's that you think about. But just to say there is also a lot of work going on within the private sector space. Digitalization is happening everywhere, both in government and in the private sector. It has implications. In other words, there is a question here, what necessitated the passage of the Cybersecurity Act? And I think we need to look at the context, the happenings, to see whether the legal environment we had was adequate, effective, responsive to help us achieve and sustain our digital transformation objectives. I don't need to also mention about the growth of your sector. I believe telecommunication is a subcomponent of the ICT sector as far as the overall statistical analysis of our economy is concerned. And we picked this from the Ghana Statistical Service, referencing their latest statistics, telling a story of how much your sector contributes to GDP. I think, Ken, you've been raising this a lot in your advocacy. When you are speaking to avoid government tax, that's the argument you use. Indeed, I'm told that is the most the sector which is growing the most, right? Number one, which is very encouraging. And we need to protect that particular sector, else we are in trouble. But there are specific areas normally referred to critical information infrastructure sectors. Your sector is one. Imagine we don't have MTN, Vodafone, Airtel to go running. What is going to happen? You serve as a backbone for all other services also to be running within the country. But not just your sector. We have the financial sector. The mining sector is another critical area. Defense and security. Our ICT, transportation, health, government, water, energy, food, emergency services, and ultimately education. These are critical sectors if we are unable to protect these sectors, to ensure continuous availability, to ensure the confidentiality of informational asset there, to ensure the integrity of the data or informational resources there, our nation will be impacted in a very negative way. So Ghana currently has identified 13 critical information sectors. In the coming weeks, before the end of the year certainly, the minister responsible for cybersecurity matters, in this case, Honorable Minister for Communications and Digitalization, will come out. The Act allows her to designate a number of institutions that are considered critical information infrastructure owners. Once you are designated, it means you own a certain system, a network, database that is so critical to economy. The telecommunications chamber, all your members are automatically going to be designated as critical information infrastructure owners. And it has implication, and I'll explain that as far as the Act is concerned. Once again, there's a recent news in the US that ransomware hits a critical sector, which was the energy. I believe we also followed the story. The $5 million USD was paid. Can you imagine? Before the attackers restored the services back. And this is US. Okay. How do you analyze it? Once again, when you follow the story of cyber incident, you begin to understand that it is not only the technology system, the money that you have to invest, but sometimes the little things, if you fail to do so, could expose you in the most dangerous way. In this particular case, that's what happened. They had the technology systems in place all right, but somebody somewhere didn't do what the person was supposed to do. So compliance in cybersecurity matters is not a question of just deploying the system, setting up compliance units and others, but even training the basic awareness that you need to create, the do's and don'ts, the policy direction, the behaviors, the attitudes of the users of the system matters most. And you need to address these fundamental issues before you even deploy the technology system. Please follow the story of this attack, in which $5 million USD was paid out. It wasn't a question of lack of technology infrastructure to protect that critical sector of the US economy. It was around a user, which is normally considered as the weakest link in this particular case. So let's look at it in terms of our response mechanisms. We should be looking at the user, all of us, from the bottom up. Okay? Now, a bit of contextual analysis as well. We are estimated to be around somewhere 31 million. Let's wait for what the current census comes out with that. Mobile connections, internet users, I'm interested, about half of them are internet users. But I want to link it to one particular statistical information. Ghana is ranked the 10th country with its citizens being very active on social media. So even though half of our population are actively are using the internet, when it comes to global analysis, the whole world, Ghana is placed number 10. So we are actively online. From cyber criminological perspective, it has an impact. It means we are there. We are exposed to all sorts of attacks. I wouldn't want to go into the economic analysis whether that time we spend online is translating into productivity. I want to leave it to economists, social economists to look at that analysis. But I think I want to look at it from criminological standpoint. In terms of our cybersecurity, we are there, we are exposed, and once we are connected on a global platform, we can easily be used as a conduit to attack our infrastructure. E-commerce is estimated, this is the past, about 25 plus trillion USD. And I think we are catching up in terms of our domestic development. And we expect that the Free Continental Trade Agreement is likely to push that growth further up. What else is happening in terms of context? World Economic Forum estimate that global cybercrime is expected to cost businesses $8 trillion in the next 5 years. The report was issued in 2018. That is an estimate. Cyber attacks, number 2 of the top business concerns globally. I'm not sure from your own sector, Ken, where you rank cyber security issues as part of your risks. I know the fiber cut certainly will be number 1, and that is why you are emphasizing on that. The good thing is there's a cover in the Act to protect that infrastructure, and a lot of the minister has given a policy direction on that to work with the chamber. The process. The global cost of cybercrime is also estimated here, and there are several reports. Please, don't be bothered about the differences in figures. You know, in those international bodies, the metrics that are used to do the quantification are quite different. People will look at even the cost, direct cost indicators. Some are also going to look at even indirect costs and so on and so forth. Some will only look at the critical sector. They won't look at the losses from mobile money fraud. You know, the aggregation of the 50 Ghana, 100 Ghana, 200. But it give us a fair view of what the situation, the outlook is basically. That's in the slide. Okay. So, all right, that's fine. Now, the key question here is, did we need a Cybersecurity Act at all? We need to answer that. And please, my work on the African continent, I wouldn't want to use US as a measure, you know, sometimes because of our experiences. But when you are a country like ours, you are building a national response to cyber, you need to look at countries that also falls within your category. So US is on its own. It has specific rules for its specific sector, okay? So countries like Ghana, most African countries, but even smaller Asian countries, Singapore and others, other countries in the Middle East, primarily, we're looking at 3 specific legislations that addresses challenges in the cyberspace. One of them will always be the data protection legislation. Here is a personal information, personal data. That is it. My name, my date of birth, my medical records, personal data. Countries have them. Then there is a cybercrime-oriented legislation. We're talking of criminalization. Remember, criminalization alone does not protect us. It serves as a deterrent, so it reduces offending, because people fear that once they offend, they are likely to be convicted. So we need to look at the cybercrime-oriented legislation. Thankfully, our Electronic Transactions Act, which was passed in 2008, has most of the provisions. More than 90% of offenses in cybercrime are captured in there, and they are quite good. We have Data Protection Act as well, which also deals with the protection of privacy, protection of personal data. What we didn't have is that legislation. That is more, I call it forward-looking. That is more innovative. That is more of a risk management, you know, value or relevance to our digital ecosystem. You can't build a sustainable digital economy by relying on criminalization of offenses alone. Absolutely no. You are interested in ensuring that there is a risk management approach. Best practices are being implemented by businesses so that we can have sustainable rollout of our digital transformation programs. That is basically what the cybersecurity legislation seeks to do. It is more forward-looking. It is more to support Ghana's digital transformation by way of risk management, by way of introducing best practices, but absolutely through a regulatory framework. You need regulation. The digital ecosystem is broad, but the cybersecurity subsector requires a regulatory approach to support businesses with their risk management compliance mechanisms and absolutely support the overall sustainable transformation agenda. Okay. Did we have any gaps at all? We need to also answer that question. Will you just stand up and say you are introducing a Cybersecurity Act? We had, and I'll show you scientific analysis that was done before actually coming out with the act. But issues of cybersecurity policy strategy and the governance system. Look, for every sustainable domain, there ought to be a governance structure. There has to be responsibility. There should be accountability. It is natural. In every human endeavor, you need these pillars. Who is accountable? Who has the responsibility over this? We need to have that. It was, cybersecurity was being done in ad hoc, Ken will say in silos, right? So we had big players who were doing their own thing, and most of them not aligning properly with national vision and agenda. So things were happening, but we didn't have that governance structure system that will integrate all the players into a unified system to be able to deal with the threat. Framework for cybersecurity development wasn't there, lack of standardization, and that is a fear. It's not only in cybersecurity. Folks, one of the biggest problems we have in our ecosystem is lack of standardization. In the government sector, it's a major issue. The minister has raised it a number of times. Agencies, institutions, MDAs just buy any software and deploy them. It's amazing. Sometimes just two agencies sitting within the same ministry, their systems are not able to talk to each other. The same way applies to cybersecurity. What sort of solution are we deploying on environment? Do we know what is their efficacy rate? Are we able to determine that there isn't any backdoor installed in that system that is running your sensitive business transactions? These are important questions. Of course, legislation, there were gaps there. Low level of cybercrime awareness, we've mentioned about that. Incident response mechanisms and capabilities were absent. Attacks will always happen. Sometimes somebody asks a question. You say you've achieved 86% in IT ranking, so why have you been attacked? Please. It is not a question of whether you will, it's when it will happen. Absolutely, it will. So the key determinant in this particular case is not whether you are going to be attacked, but when you attack, how quick can you restore your services and work? And that is the incident response mechanisms that we're talking about here. Okay. International cooperation is important. And we had a certain example when we were explaining the Budapest Convention, which Ghana acceded to our members of parliament. That convention appeared to be an EU convention. But the question is, and let's be very frank here, all of us in this room, it's likely about 99% of us are using either Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, or any of the email services which sits in a different infrastructure country, either US or Europe. Please, if there's anybody who falls outside that category, let me know. I wish I was using my Africa Online email account. Unfortunately, it does not exist. Maybe let me challenge industry players. I'm not sure how come Africa Online does not exist, or is not seen within the popular emails that I'm talking about here. But the fact there is a dependency. Our citizens are dependent on Western technology. And a government to be able to deal with cybersecurity issues, the email fraud, the attacks that emanate on Facebook, has to collaborate with international partners. And that was the logic by which the government acceded to the Budapest Convention, by which we have our own internal emails that CID wouldn't have to reach out to the US judicial authorities to be able to investigate a case. But that is not the case. We have to collaborate, and that is why a lot of effort has also been made in that particular space. But you may be interested. Early part of 2018, the Ministry of Communications commissioned a study which was conducted by a center at the University of Oxford and funded by the World Bank. It was to provide a 360-degree of Ghana's cybersecurity readiness. The measurements revolve around 5 areas. One is a policy strategy side, cyber culture society, education, training, skills development, regulatory framework, standards, technologies, and others. And this is how we were placed. There are 5 levels. We were placed at a formative level. Of course, we had started building the fundamental pillars, policy strategy, governance structure, organizational measures were being introduced, some sort of capacity building and so on and so forth. We were there. But this is very useful for you. And we had not done much. Awareness creation was called the minimum. And awareness creation at all levels, from the boardroom to the ordinary user, the development of the act. Now, from the national standpoint, developing a legislation is not only dependent on what the industry people tells you, the problem they have. And permit me to share with you, the telecommunications sector will have a problem. And on top of your agenda was the fiber cut. That's what this gentleman continued to sing, fiber cuts. Let's do something about it. But you also, they have particular concerns, protection of children. CID also had their own concern, and even they have concerns also with you. I'm telling you, our national security sector also had their own concern. So, folks, at the national level, it requires deliberate, constructive engagement with all players. Civil society equally had their own needs within this. You represent a fraction of this legislation because it's a national law that ought to be responsive and inclusive as such. What are the reference points? Once again, it's not only even at the domestic space. Ghana is part of the international community. Once you sign up to a treaty at the international level, once our government commits us to an international treaty, your domestic legislation has to align. We call this harmonization. Because US wouldn't be able to share information. Facebook will not comply to share details with us to do investigations. Once we do not have a common law in terms of substantive legislation, there should be certain commonality. In other words, what constitutes a crime in the US has to be a crime in Ghana for certain collaboration on investigation and prosecution to take place. I think you need to know this as well. So, we are a signatory to the Malabo Convention, which is a convention on cybercrime, cybersecurity, data protection by the African Union. Then the Budapest Convention, which is also an international convention that allows us to be able to engage with state parties. I've mentioned about the assessment which was conducted by the ministry. Of course, we also have our national policy strategy on cyber matters. So that also has to be taken into consideration. Other bodies also did their own research. For example, UNICEF conducted a research on the risks associated or how our children, young people are exposed to certain risks on the internet. We had to take all of them into consideration. Right. This is, for example, the revised National Cybersecurity Policy Strategy. You are only seeing the cover because the document is on its way to cabinet. we should have it outdoor before the end of the year. But the strategic imperatives, and each strategic imperative has specific initiatives that are going to be implemented as part of our national cybersecurity development. So all this were taken into consideration. What measures do we need to put in place to deter cybercrime, to strengthen cooperation both at the domestic and international level, develop our capacity? R&D certainly is one of the areas, to secure our digital infrastructure, but even the resiliency of the system that we are building here. So we design the technology, we deploy them right at the onset, introducing security measures in there. Okay. I think you're convinced the ministry and its collaborator didn't just sit somewhere and develop the act. Extensive consultations. So at the domestic level, the interministerial advisory body, which comprises different ministries, the technical working group, heads of security agencies, civil society, academia, media input, the industry, of which you are a part. Of course, international partners, we also work with UNICEF, ECOWAS, the World Bank, Council of Europe, and of course, every country has its own bilateral partners. US, for example, is an active bilateral partner on cybersecurity matters. Exactly the UK and also Ghana being a common law country, we had to actually pay a visit to study their system and do what we call adaptation. Right, thank you. Now let's talk about the acts. What do we have in this act? I think the number, you have it, right? And before we do this, I think it's good to commend the work of the Select Committee of Parliament on Communications. Both parties, and I want to stress here again, did excellent job. Representative of the government in power and the government in opposition sat, deliberated, and there wasn't a single issue. Ken, you were there. You were in that room. I want to send a signal that this act has been produced with 100% bipartisan collaboration. I believe as a country, there's a way to go. And cybersecurity developments, I think, represent an example of how we can look, we can sometimes put our political and I mean political interests, of course. Okay, you need the numbers. Okay, doesn't it? If you are going into politics, what do you want? You need to win. But I think this is a security matter, and serving Parliament show leadership by way of understanding the issues and pushing this thing through. Let's look at the various sessions of the Act. So we have a session that covers on the governance, the Cybersecurity Authority. There are sessions on administrative, these are usual things the lawyers know very well. A session that set up the Cybersecurity Fund. But you are very much interested in the section that deals with the critical information infrastructure, which is from section 35 to 40. Then the section on the national sectorial set, incident response as well, licensing of cybersecurity service providers, accreditation, certification, cybersecurity standards, enforcement, protection of children, and once again, 69 to 77, cybersecurity and investigatory powers, which I would like to provide a bit of insight, how that impacts on you, your sector, and how you can work with the various stakeholders to achieve the goals and expectations. Now, the Cybersecurity Authority, is there a reason for this? I mean, the subsections are there. Basically, within the last 5 years, we've seen a certain trend linking to the institutionalization of cybersecurity. I use the word institutionalization. Cybersecurity was being done ad hoc, segmented manner. Even in the UK, UK set its own national cyber center in 2016. They had different, about 3 or 4 different entities working. Of course, they had their national, critical national protection, of which cyber was a sub-component. They had their national set running. They had their cyber intelligence running somewhere. But they felt that that system wasn't the way to go. Israel set up its national cybersecurity authority within the last 5 years. Saudi Arabia the same. So Singapore set up its own cybersecurity agency within the last 5 years. Rwanda. The countries which are doing well in digitalization, who are forward thinking, all of them. So don't be surprised why ITU has given you a high rank. The forward-looking countries are institutionalizing their cybersecurity. Why? Because cybersecurity is multidimensional. It's like octopus. CID has a component, even at the domestic level. NCA has a component. NITA, FIC, the private sector, the telcos, the banks. You need a body with that responsibility to oversee, coordinate the work in this particular space. So that is the rationale why Cybersecurity Authority is being set up. Why is it not a center? Authority has certain regulatory powers. This is a fast-moving domain. You need certain regulatory powers to be able to what? Act when you need to act. That is also the reason. I really want us to answer some of these questions because it may come up later on. I think governance of the authority, I wouldn't touch on that, but just to say it was a major win for the industry to have 3 representations on the board to be nominated from the industry forum, which we are going to constitute. So that is a major one. Even the president also appoint 2 others. If you're able to lobby, you are likely to probably have half of the people on the board being private sector stakeholders. Please, it doesn't happen much, at least from the African context. Somebody will say, well, don't compare yourself to Africa and look at the best. Trust me. I think Ghana is doing something serious in this particular area, and let's take advantage. Let's start working with the ministry to ensure that our views are fairly represented. So that it's not just the act, we can still contribute on how to implement the provisions in the act. The critical information infrastructure is what I've mentioned earlier. But these are net systems, infrastructures that attacks against their confidentiality, their integrity, their availability will cause serious consequences. In fact, it's likely to determinant, has national security implications or possibly economic and the social well-being of citizens. That is a rule. Once your system you are running meets any of these criteria, then automatically you are going to be designated by the minister. Once the minister do the designation, then the authorities start with the registration. Please expect this to happen before the end of the year, according to the policy direction given by the minister. And it deals with registration, compliance, but there are interesting aspects in this bill. I'm sure somebody may ask the use of administrative penalties. I wouldn't want to explain here, but I believe somebody will actually come and comment why in a country where we seem to have brilliant laws, we lack compliance. In fact, when we are examining Ghana, what laws do you have? I think we'll tick almost every box. But go on the compliance side. As a matter of fact, the policy direction is not to punish. Indeed, the minister has given the policy direction. The authority will work collaboratively. So indeed, we are talking of collaborative regulatory approach. Let me use the word correctly. However, non-compliance seriously needs to be punished by way of not really our criminal penalties, but administrative penalties as well. I think that is one innovation that we also have in the bill, because we don't want cybersecurity to move around the same path, where we do the law, but then we don't comply and nothing actually happens. The other section deals with national and sectorial sets. These are entities that are going to deal with the incident. And I would like to probably alert you on something. Somebody asked a question. But look, we are already regulated by NCA. a financial person will ask me, but Bank of Ghana already regulates us. The Bank of Ghana Act does not regulate cybersecurity. Let's be very clear. It regulates what? Financial services. The Cybersecurity Act regulates cybersecurity matters. However, the approach that we have used is, you don't just create confusion, right? I think that is a concern of an industry feeling the pressure of regulation. The NCA has been a major player in what we have done, in every aspect, in terms of their knowledge contribution, financial support, and others. So, as far as the work of the regulator as the authority is concerned, we will work with the sectorial regulators. So you see right here, sectorial set means a set for the telecommunications sector is going to be accredited, which will be certain within the NCA, and that will supervise the work that falls under you. So we've created a sort of decentralized system without creating problems. So you wouldn't jump without working with your principal regulator. But the distinction has to be clear. NCA is not set up to regulate cybersecurity matters. Bank of Ghana is not set up by an act of parliament to regulate cybersecurity matters. Each has a role to play. But for effective implementation of the act, the Cybersecurity Authority will be working collaboratively with the sectorial players. And that is why you have some of these provisions. So just be assured that you're not going to have people just jumping in, and to create confusion. The goal is to get compliance. I think that is what matters. And we are also willing to receive other advice, suggestions, for us to be able to build an approach that is responsive to our current circumstances. Okay? Incident reporting has also been captured under the set, but licensing of cybersecurity service providers is very important. Cybersecurity is a global commodity, certainly, and international demand and supply, you should be able to have anybody at all you wish to do the service for you. But it's so sensitive. My background, the work I've done, you have access to so much information. Some of them have national security implications. The state, at least as a regulator, needs to have some visibility of anybody who can go into a critical information infrastructure system. So MTN, your system is a critical information infrastructure to the state. Anyone who comes on to do vulnerability assessment or get access to certain sensitive data needs to be known. In other words, the cybersecurity provider that you contract to do the job ought to be accredited. We need to know those persons, and accreditation will also involve background checks, because we have issues in which so-called ethical hackers, I didn't want to make that point earlier on. Where is Madam? They have the title ethical hackers, all right, but what they do behind the scenes are worse than ethical. It also falls under. So practitioners are also going to be, and the licensing is not really about the technical competence. Really, in cyber matters, we are interested in your own risk profile to be able to have access into certain systems, especially systems that are designated as critical information infrastructure. It can't just be anyone. I think that is the justification for some of these issues. Let's run through again standards enforcement and education. I think the public awareness will continue. Certain standards by way of directives, guidelines, and it has to be industry-led. One thing we anticipate is likely we'll have a specific directive for the telecommunications sector. And this will be jointly developed with the NCA. That is the spirit that you should expect to see in this particular area, together with you guys, okay? That is what we mean by the collaborative regulatory approach. We are also looking at cybersecurity and investigatory powers. Here, certain provisions, you may not like it, retention of data, and I want to carry the message from the law enforcement agencies to you. And second, I wish to express my personal opinion here in terms of what I have seen with respect to the interactions between the law enforcement agencies and your members. So we have a higher court that issues an order, a production order for certain information to be produced by a network operator. A response comes to the law enforcement agency. We receive this, we have this, but we do not have the data that you are requesting. And you know who signs the letter? Hello? Who normally signs such letters? Please, well, it's a high court judge who issues the order. And who signs from the operator side? I think customer relations officer. Please, no disrespect. However, matters of production, court production orders, do not fall within the domain of a customer relations. It falls within the domain of the legal department of your establishment. I can provide best practice examples here. And the mere fact is the high court, right, that issues that order. There should be certain equivalence in terms of response. So that is just on the side. But in terms of substance, you may have your own issues. We know sometimes the law enforcement also abuses the system, right? They do. We need to implement checks and balances. So some of these provisions here are very much consistent with the Budapest Convention, which is an international system that is being used in terms of interception, provisions, and so on and so forth. Data retention for 12 months. That's fairly the standard. Now, one issue that also comes up is we don't have the data in the format you are requesting for. Chief, I'll plead with your chamber. I've seen it. These letters come to me. And that is one area we need to address as quickly as possible. Indeed, we need to have further conversation, collaboratively, even with NITA. If the question of lack of space to keep this information, we should start talking to NITA. We should start talking among us. But we need, it's a standard practice for law enforcement to be able to access that information through a legal request. And you know what we have done? There is a session we've introduced inspectors. Read the act. Is to ensure checks and what? Balances. So if our act is being praised, we make sure we do, as an industry, we do what is required to allow our law enforcement, security intelligence agencies to do their lawful duty. But we need to also place checks and balances in place to ensure that our rights are not abused. I think that's the balance that we see in this act. And please read through very carefully. And we'll be talking once again to ensure that we have the best arrangements for compliance. The industry forum I've mentioned already, and I believe you take advantage as a group. You are already organized. And the minister, once again, there will be a policy direction. We will convey the forum to deliberate and eventually even set up a code that will regulate how we engage and address some of these challenges when they come. Protection of children. I think you also love it. That was the aspect of the law that received a lot of praises. The sextortion issue. But it's not just about children. It also gets into the other provision, online sexual offenses. But our children, young people, are exposed to certain risks with respect to the contact that they establish on the internet, with respect to their own conduct on the internet, and also the content that they consume on the internet. And we needed to act with some of these provisions to protect them. There has been several instances. Dr. Gaba's case is one in point, in which the young boy was sexually abused. How did the contact established? That was established through Facebook. Look at the Takrady case issues. Somebody, how did the school children got in touch with somebody who is a foreigner? It's that particular environment. We need to. I think the risks are high, and COVID moving everybody online, there were serious issues that we needed to act in this particular space. But the other thing is also the other online sexual offenses. That dominates one of the major problems within our space. I think that falls number 2 in terms of the report the center receives. The first is impersonation. People using other high-profile personalities' identity to commit fraud. And that is why the mobile money fraud is also linked, because they use the numbers to receive the money, really. That's a connection. Online impersonation. So that's the topmost report that we receive. The second is incident of indecent, non-consensual sharing, distribution of images or videos. I think the law does not impose morals on Ghanaians. No. But it has made certain things very clear. If 2 consenting adults decide to do whatever they want to do, the law does not dictate, don't do this, don't do that. It is quite obvious that once that is done, it shouldn't give any other party the basis to threaten the other party to distribute those images. That is punishable. And in some cases, you are likely to get 25 years as a sentence. So I think it is also needed to address an important social problem. I think there are other provisions, and one of them, 87, blocking, filtering, and taking down illegal content. That is a fair provision, but the good thing is the justifications are there. And please read through the investigatory powers. They are very specific in terms of what the requesting agency will have to provide. I think that is the innovation that we have brought in. We didn't just write, look, you will just be requested to take down content. There's a clear process. And once again, the inspector's role is to make sure they check the balances so that we don't abuse the system. I think, in concluding, there are certainly impacts. Every legislation has its own impact in the various sectors. So certainly, a regulatory impact, you are going to set yourself up. You have regulatory divisions. Certainly, they need to look at the Cybersecurity Act and the obligations that it places on you as a critical information infrastructure in terms of production orders which are coming, which I've mentioned. Once we engage, responses should not emanate from customer service officers. It is a legal request. It has to go to a legal desk. A legal officer should be trained, should be engaged. A focal point should be assigned to the authority to do some of those things. So it's going to have implications. But when I say collaborative engagement, it means we're going to sit down, discuss, and I think we'll have a best model. Other African countries are learning from us, and the minister's direction is, let's continue to build upon this. Let's do what is best again so that it can better serve the example for the rest of the continent. Technology impact is key. You may need a SOC or a set system in place because there is obligation to report cybersecurity incident within 24 hours once they happen. So certainly, it has an implication in that particular space. Human resource impact is there. You may have to need to recruit to fill in the gaps in this particular area. Of course, ultimately, there is a cost impact. However, the cost-benefit analysis, 5 million ransomware was paid. Ken, you were showing me statistics earlier on. I think the ransomware figure is getting to where? Those who want big money. Okay. 406 million. That is what ransomware, the value. If ransomware is being sold on a stock market, that is the value. So Yes, I've placed cost there because I need to. It has cost impacts. But let's do, as a body industry, do cost-benefit analysis. And I think we can invest and safeguard this particular industry. The last slide I have, which are quite specific. So investment in compliance really is linked to the impact analysis I presented earlier. We're also looking at investment in incident response and reporting mechanisms, awareness creation across board. Secured, resilient digital ecosystem ultimately. Collaborative engagement. As I've mentioned, we'll work with you as an industry. But let's also think about job creation and talent development. Now we are just estimating, if we are designating as a first step about 250 institutions. If you are a CIO owner, you don't need less than 2 minimum, even if you are small cybersecurity professional. But we are looking at averagely of 4 or 5 people. So 5 times 250 gives us how many? How many? 5 times 250. So just from the first year of this act, we created more than 1,000 cybersecurity jobs. Please, prepare yourself, employ them. If you are also jumping from one area, do yourself some certifications. It is an industry-driven legislation that is also developing an ecosystem for all of us. I think at this point, Ken, thank you for the opportunity, Chamber. And from the Minister, we are going to engage with the implementation of this act. The key word here is collaborative engagement for effective implementation of the new Cyber Security Act. Thank you so much.
A better round of applause for Dr. Albert Intribusiakon for that very detailed presentation. Doc, thank you very much. You can take your seat. It's been a long while, so you can take the questions. Take your questions from the sitting position. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your participation. It's time for question and answers. We're streaming live on Facebook. We're streaming live on YouTube. Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications handles. If you have a question, I can see I already have 2 hands up. If you have a question, please do. And if you are watching online, you have a question, a specific question related to the law, and you want answers, please share your questions and we'll definitely get answers for you from here as well. So we'll start from this table and then we'll go to the one at the back. Richard Abbey, Managing Editor for Business 24.
All right, good morning. My name is Richard.
You want to stand so we can capture you?
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. I think that was an insightful presentation. But coming here, I think there's a question I've always had on my mind, which has to do with prosecution when it comes to cybersecurity. I remember a couple of years ago, I was following up on some incidents at the CID where some young guys were arrested for some of these things. I don't know what specifically, but it relates to cybersecurity involving banks, right? And the CID, my person over there was complaining bitterly that when these guys are arrested, the banks do not come forward because they fear that once it becomes public that their systems have been compromised, they would have some bad press, or the public would run on them and all that. So I want to find out from you, with the coming into being of the Cybersecurity Act, how is this going to change? Are the banks going to come forward, or how are we going to be doing the prosecutions going forward? Or are we going to demystify? Because every institution in the world is prone to attack. So how are we going to conscientize the public for them to understand that if an institution is attacked, it doesn't mean that they have weak systems, but it's something that could happen to anyone. So I just want to know the approach with regards to that. And then secondly, I think this is very basic. And for those people who receive their salaries through controller, there's always a complaint that anytime, let's say if someone is even added onto the payroll, next thing you know, they are receiving text messages. And this thing has been going on for long. I have people who call me and say, so what are we doing? Are we as a media going to write on it and all that? And I find it very curious. If at that point of entry, someone is leaking such vital information, what else could be going wrong? And how does the National Security Authority, or how does the Cybersecurity Act tackle this particular problem, which appears to be very basic but could be very fundamental to how even people understand this whole concept of cybersecurity? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Richard, you can pass the microphone back to Mr. David Go from the Institute of ICT Professionals, Ghana.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Doc, for the presentation. Very insightful. I want to also commend you for the awareness program you are carrying out. Last month we had one on online child protection. My question is with regards to professionals, because I represent professionals in the ICT industry. Normally in cybersecurity we have standards and we have professional certifications. These international professional certifications are very expensive for some of our young professionals to fake. I want to find out from the authority, are you going to have your own standards? Are you going to have some collaborations with this international organization so that we have the rates or the prices for these trainings or certifications reduced so that our people can afford? My second question is with regards to awareness. Again, I must commend you. You are doing a good job in terms of creating awareness in this sector. But what are the strategies you have in terms of getting the awareness beyond this stakeholders meeting is one of them, but do you have any other strategy? The Institute is ready to support. We normally write articles on that. Today I have our Director of Communication is here, and I believe he's going to write an article with regards to what has happened here and educating the public. But do you also have some broad awareness program that we can all follow? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Doc, you want to take these questions?
This is for you too. I'll try as much as possible as I can, and I'll give it to my good friend Ken also to comment on that. But first of all, I appreciate the interest and the ensuing questions that are coming in. The first one is from Sir Richard regarding the prosecutions. I think I agree with you. There is a culture. Remember, don't take the context out of every problem that you have, okay? That's one thing I learned. The context is key. You look at the culture. It's always demand and supply thing. What's the typical thinking of ordinary Ghanaian? If a bank A information comes out in the media about somebody stealing their money, okay, we have a cultural problem we need to address with. Even for effective cyber security compliance, the cultural element is key. I'm not condoning and supporting in any way the practices of the banks, but I really want us to look at the context, okay? So, and it's not only here. I believe you are from industry, so I believe Ken may comment on that. Mobile money fraud issues, the chamber has been pushing back, right? Okay, it's natural. We need to promote transparency, while at the same time ensuring confidentiality to ensure our business operations. It's a delicate balance. Transparency here means if a bank refuses to report incident as prescribed by the Act, that will not be acceptable. But I think what will also equally not be business appropriate is going into the media and showing the information. Okay? Because I'm talking about the context. You wouldn't want the business to fail. So we need to balance that. And I think once we engage and we talk together, I mentioned transparency. Okay? Transparency means that you don't hide it from the regulator in this particular case. However, a regulator should not also do certain regulatory actions that will collapse businesses. It's a delicate balance. We need to engage and address this issue, taking into consideration the context. I hope that's come closer to your expected answer. in terms of controller, it's a data protection issue. I wish my colleague is here. And I want to say from my professional standpoint, that's not appropriate. Whether it's an internal person who is giving out the information for businesses to take advantage, or wherever this is coming from. And I believe I will leave it, if there is a comment maybe from the chamber side, I will leave it to Ken also to mention about it. But it's a data protection issue, and I believe the Data Protection Commission itself is looking into this as well. So David, I think I want to commend you. I've seen your articles, you do well. And in an ecosystem like ours, folks, I want to be very candid. When you are a developing country, you can have a lot of wishes, but you may not be able to. Somebody should actually ask me, behind all this ITU ranking, what has been your staff strength at the center? I want to say here publicly, I think the officers who work there, their workload is doubled than most people I know, even in the private sector. It's not because the jobs are not there, but in government sector, you don't just what? Recruit. That is the reality. I hope you understand. Despite the fact that everybody knows cybersecurity is a reality, you don't. And I want to share this with you. 4 years in the public sector, I discovered one wisdom. I had my own organization. It takes me a day to recruit if the need is there, by convincing your board even on phone. But in the public sector, you are likely to be told how many shareholders? More than 30 million. Right? That's a wisdom. You see, so we got to move gradually and make sure, I think the policy direction the minister has given is, well, you have 20 staff, you have 50, show deliverables, and you make a case, because everybody is competing for finance. You need to do something with the little you have before you make a case actually for what? Bigger things. But I think that is where what you are doing is key, because you need the private sector space also to come on board. And I think we may have to formalize that relationship as a matter of fact. Okay, but I think I will not be candid to say, well, the government is going to do everything. It's not going to happen, at least in the next 25 years. As a developing country of which our limited finances, a whole lot of pressure on them. But let's be innovative, as you said. Let's work with ISACA is there, private sector, cybersecurity firms, industry like us. The chamber has got money. So as a matter of fact, we could look at every quarter having a workshops. He has actually brought us money before.
That's a cybersecurity breach.
Okay. So I think that is linked to the awareness creation. I believe that's the best way to. I would certainly not give assurance here that government, despite the commitment, is going to make every resources that we need. And we need to be innovative and work among ourselves to still achieve some results. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Doc. Can you want to add?
Basically, on the issue of the data protection conversation, it's something that because of these content providers that we have, there's some regulation also around that, there's been some engagement with the players within the space. But another thing that all of us also need to be aware of these days is that there's a lot of information that we ourselves put up in various places. A lot of these places that you have to go where you sign in, and then when COVID came, where you go to church, it's a place where you all give our data. So there's various places that we ourselves give a lot of this information available. So it is important that we all realize the fact that data protection starts from all of us. And it's the same way cybersecurity too. We all need to heighten our cyber hygiene. And I think that assurance from the chamber to the center that we work collaboratively to ensure that we enhance awareness, it's something that really we will do.
Thank you, Ken. I'm moving away from these two tables. I'm coming to the side here. Okay, I see 2 hands up. You want to mention your name and then your institution, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Sharif Issa from Institute of ICT Professionals, Ghana. And I will commend the
Chamber and the National Cybersecurity Center for this opportunity. In the past decade, we've seen, regulators within our space, and we see them to be very keen on the private sector. They seem to be chasing the private sector and very kind of lenient on the public sector. Now, I want to know to be the cybersecurity authority, how different would you operate? I'm asking so because I'm very keen in the protection of CIs. And all these 13 CIs you mentioned, I would say majority of them are in the public sector, or they are within the MDA category. So how different are we going to operate to ensure that these government-owned CIs are also well protected? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I'm Bright with KPMG in Ghana, and I have a few questions. The first one has to do with a follow-up to the data protection questions that has been asked. My question is, as a developing country like Ghana, clearly what you are trying to protect in the end will be our personal information, our financial information, and all that. This information right now is being collected via websites through these digital platforms we are creating every day. So I didn't see the act really speak to things we'll do to limit the collection and processing of some of these information. So I would like to ask which practical provisions are in place to ensure we limit the collection. And when I say personal information, I mean people's date of birth, people's addresses, and all that. The second question has to do with how this act allows for the use of international frameworks like ISO 27001, like the GDPR, or like PCI DSS. These frameworks are tested. We can't, even though we are developing, right? These frameworks are tested, they've been used throughout the world, and they've been kind of successful to some extent. So which room have you provided for our organizations to use this framework to protect themselves? I also want to ask that we've seen a lot of strides from the banking industry. The VOG has brought the cyber directive for banks, and they have plans in place, should I say, to put up a security operations center that caters for all banks in Ghana. So my question is, I've seen from the act that we plan to create a national computer security incident response team, and also have some sectorial teams for computer security incidents. How do we merge what they have done in the banking sector to what we are planning to do on the national level? Because it will be inconsistent if we do something else and they are also doing another thing. My last question will be on the licensing of individuals. It wasn't so clear whether the licenses were to be sought by organizations that provide services or individuals within those organizations. So I'd like to get some kind of clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Doc, the final one here, then you can take them.
Thank you very much. My name is Justice from JBA. Now, my question, I see it as very basic, but let me first of all congratulate you because it was heartwarming reading the story that Ghana has been ranked third best in cybersecurity on the continent. Yes, but also looking at the situation on the ground here, then it looks as if then Africa has a lot of catching up to do when it comes to cybersecurity, because the issue about security breaches, especially when it comes to using the internet to defraud people, is so disturbing on the ground. Especially some of our neighbors that, they troop into this country are seen as people who are here using Ghana as a launching pad for their internet fraud activities. Now, it is sad to note that the allegation out there is that law enforcement knows these people, especially identifying them with certain brands of cars that I was taken through, a process to authenticate this. The law enforcement identifies these cars, stop these guys, and extort money from them because they know what they do. So this is quite worrying, especially as Ghana is becoming the trading hub of the continent, the trading capital of the continent. Then you also look at issues of online trading, in which some of us get defrauded by people who claim to be agents of such and such institutions selling this and that service or product. So my question is, what is your outfit going to do to ensure that online trading activities are protected from internet fraud and people's incomes? And then this also comes in when it looks like foreign investors also fall victim to some of these fraudsters. So what are we going to do to sanitize the system such that these things are reduced to the bare minimum? Thank you.
All right, Doc, you want to take these questions, then we'll take the final round of questions,
All
please.
Salai, thank you. The first one, Sharif, CI protection, okay? The law does not distinguish between a government sector CI and a private sector CI. And I believe that by that principle, application should not be discriminatory. I want to start with that principle because as a regulator, you're working by the principles set out in the particular law. And I don't think anybody as a best practice would have accepted discriminatory practice. Indeed, charity begins at home. And you should even expect that the government sector leads the process. I think by way of policy, if you look at the funding section, just to let you know the thinking behind this whole legislation, there was incorporation of also government services, certain quantum of money coming from e-services and then complemented with other contribution also from the private sector. So that should also give you a view that it's not, and you use a word as a word to chase. I'm not sure how many regulators are. I don't know. I haven't seen it. But I think the word I've given you here is a regulatory engagement. And I think I don't know any other thing as in chasing. Regulatory engagement means that, look, there is a problem. And I made it very clear in my presentation where I sit. You have multiple stakeholders coming to you. Law enforcement, the industry, civil society. Once those things come up, we got to sit down. Is there a problem? Yes, it is a problem. How do we address it? Timeline, how do we give ourselves? I don't think this is chasing. I don't see this in view. But the principle here is the laws are clear and we're going to work with that. It's not exactly the case. The private, I believe, my colleague there who leads our CI will tell you, I think the private sector will outweigh the public sector in terms of the CI that will come out. Trust me, I think that one needs to be clear. The government sector cannot be more than, if you look at those manufacturing, mining, transport, I think we're going to have a lot, especially the banking sector alone, which are mostly private sector. But I want to assure you, at least from policy direction given by the minister, there wouldn't be discriminatory application in terms of enforcing the provisions. Thank you. The KPMG, thank you for, that's 4-in-1 or possibly 5-in-1 question. I really appreciate that. I'll try to take one, each one. The first thing you raise in terms of the principles around collection and processing is purely an issue which is addressed with the Data Protection Act. Please kindly take Act 843. It set out the principles of collection, the minimality, the proportionality, and all those things. So it is already something which is addressed in law. Indeed, Ghana's data protection is one of the best instruments. Please look at that. The object of this act does not deal with the personal information. So let's clarify this. That's why you may not see that provision, but it is addressed in the data protection legislation. Number two, you made an important point, of course, where you're coming from in terms of the international frameworks. I use the word cyber as a global commodity. So how is Ghana building its system and deny or not take advantage of international best practices? I mean, basically. So the ISOs, the NIST, the PCI, DSS are all going to be incorporated within the regulatory framework. You mentioned the Bank of Ghana one, but because we are regulating a broader ecosystem, remember, Bank of Ghana is quite a specific sector, okay? But your regulation covers multiple sectors. We are likely to have sectorial directives that will take care of each sector. And all the things will be incorporated into that. So I want to assure you the standards that we all know will be incorporated into the standards directives that will be issued out the industries. But you're not going to take one, right? You are likely to be flexible to allow a particular industry. If you say PCI DSS, I'm likely to push this to the financial sector, isn't it? But you're not likely to say manufacturing sector should also do so. So a regulator at the national level will have to look at all this. And I think from where you sit, we can engage and define the metrics better and see how we apply some of these issues within our context. I want to also make a point in connection to the individual, the licensing that you raise about. Licensing, if you are a cybersecurity service provider, you have to have a license to operate that service. So cybersecurity service is defined, either forensic, either pen testing, all those in the fall in it. Certainly, there is a different angle also in terms of the individuals that you engage. They will also have to be licensed. And that connects to Sir David. You raise a point about the various qualifications. Once again, private sector development, innovation. We can't prevent EC Council. You can't present ISACA. It is good for the ecosystem, right? However, a national framework will have to be developed. That will so integrate, the word here is, those qualifications. We are likely to look at a 3-tier approach, where if you don't have the first tier, you are not likely to be given clearance to access critical information infrastructure system. I hope you believe that. Yeah, so go out there, shop whichever qualification you have, but internally, we should be able to develop our own competency system. And we'll be working with NITA. NITA is also looking at the IT class, generally. That is how the regulatory space around licensing of individuals is likely to play. But that will not exclude the various competencies, skills, certification that has been achieved by our hard-working cybersecurity professionals. But you believe with me as well, we can't just allow anything from moving. I've also seen my own professional life where people carry those certifications. When you put them on the system, they cannot perform. Ghana deserves better, and that is why a regulator will also have to have internal mechanism to ensure that whatever you hold, actually you are able to exercise the kind of job that you are exercising. So I think I will rest on that. In terms of collaboration, you also raise an important matter, the sectors. I think I touched on that a little bit earlier. Bank of Ghana has done so well because the space was what? Empty. They had to stand in because the financial sector, most of the cyber attacks we've experienced here, more than 75% are financially motivated. So I think as a regulator, it needed to act. However, in view of the Cybersecurity Act, you made a good point. All these things are going to be integrated into the system. And I gave an indication that you are likely to have sectorial directives, which are still emanating from the Cybersecurity Act. I did mention the sectorial set in the Act, that the telecommunications sector is one area, already is in practice, how we work with the NCA. We work with the Bank of Ghana in equal manner. So Bank of Ghana is also going to be accredited as a sectorial leader. The SOC you mentioned about will still function. It will have direct oversight responsibility over the financial sector, But they are also accredited because that information needs to reach the authority within a certain time frame. So I hope you understand. It's a decentralized system, but I use the word accountability, responsibility. It has to manifest in all this, and I think there wouldn't be a problem, okay? We are in the process of developing all of this, and the collaborative engagement means people like you, people like the chamber will be consulted to fleshing out the best way of doing that. The last one, say justice. You spoke very well. I think I can understand that issue is a matter of your heart, isn't it? I hope you understand when somebody is passionate about something. The issue of internet fraud, I think if you bring the minister here, that is the most worrying development. When you enter parliament now, that's the first question you are likely to be asked. But why are people still using my name to defraud other institutions? Sir, context is always important. Impersonation on social media is very pertinent, prolific in our space because of a number of fundamental inadequacies. One of them is our national ID system. Okay? We haven't as a country, and let's be very honest, we have not had a credible, reliable national identification system. Of course, the telecommunication operators will only have to rely on what is available, isn't it, to register the SIMs. And I'm speaking as a professional here, not as a government representative. I have instances in which fictitious passports, when they present to the telcos, they wouldn't be able to detect that it is even fake. It happens here. So criminals have taken advantage within the space to do this. I think the minister has mentioned earlier, there are certain interventions, and I want to also commend what the chamber has put up in terms of the private sector initiative to be able to validate certain numbers that will be linked to the phone and so on and so forth. But the major thing is, let's support the rollout of the national ID system. 2, the SIM registration. I'm speaking once again from a professional standpoint. If it is well implemented, and well implemented means it was an ID system that can be reliably verified, we are likely to reduce the occurrence of those fraud by 75%. You leave the 25% for the law enforcement to handle. Currently, don't blame the law enforcement. At the center, you receive more than 20 cases of Momo fraud. It is impossible. Even if you look at the cost, the loss, 100 Ghana, 200, the cost of investigating such a case, let's be real, and rather push government. This is the word I will use. My minister is responsible for that, but I just want to be very honest here, to make sure that these policy interventions are done quickly, that our national IDs are rolled out, quickly the telcos do the re-registration, together with the SIM, the device registration as well. I think it's going to help reduce most of the issues and help our investment. I wouldn't be able to give you any false assurance because that is a prevailing issue. They are taking advantage of the current issues to defraud our citizens. And we shouldn't blame the CID so much. Not to say they shouldn't do their job, but I've given you certain analysis. 500 Ghana cedis, the person is in somewhere else. And it's not just one issue. There are about 25. Ken, I think you can comment on that to see how best we can address this issue where you also sit. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Doc, I have a question for Ken and yourself. So maybe, Ken, before you come in, these are from online. We have a question from Suleimana who is asking that when you say you are declaring telecommunications infrastructure as critical national infrastructure, what does that mean? And he further asks that, does that mean that you are going to be monitoring customers? So I know there's a bit of the conversation around interception, so maybe you want to tackle that when I hand over to you. So Ken will handle that. Okay, sure. Then the second part of the question is also from a gentleman called Eko Odro, who on YouTube is asking that he works with the Ghana Cyber Security Association, which are a group of cyber professionals in the diaspora. His question is that what are we doing to help the outcome and growth of the cybersecurity ecosystem here in Ghana? Okay, so we'll be taking our final round of questions. So if you want to put your hands up, and then I'll come to you. Okay, I see Doreen, I see gentleman from, okay, so I see 1, 2, 3. Any others before we wrap? This will be the final round of questions that we'll take. So Ken, you want to touch on the question?
So thank you very much. The critical national infrastructure is the fact that there are currently some infrastructure already in place. So telecom, electricity, utilities are critical national infrastructure. To the extent that damage of them, even copper, copper telecommunication, damage of them would elicit more stringent punishment. If you look at the Electronic Communication Act, there's even some punishment in there already. But with the designation, there's some responsibility on the operators of that. And our quest is that when that directive comes, there should also then be some responsibility placed on government in providing protection so that that infrastructure is protected, because as we speak now, lights go off and we operate. Our generators might come on. Water supply goes off and our tanks that we get. But I'm not too sure if the whole country, if communication were to break down, it will really be terrible. So it's really important that that classification, and it's a directive that is going to come. We've started some engagement with a center that would outline in a lot more details what that would come with and the protection it would do. It's all in the public interest to ensure that this infrastructure is protected. It is true that the Cyber Security Act also includes the Lawful Intercept Act. So that is part of the Cyber Security Act, and I'm pretty sure that now it would that is also something that is going to be developed, and there's going to be responsibility for operators to be able to intercept. Orders could be given under the law for information to be intercepted, but there's no continuous monitoring happening. If you look at the way the law is structured, something would have to trigger it, and you have to go to court, and those orders would have to be made. For those things to be done, and it's all about national security. It is something that we all need to pay attention to, because with this day and age, with terrorism and all of the things happening, we definitely need to empower our security agencies to be able to do this. But we also need to be mindful of our privacy. We need to be mindful of our human rights as well. So there has to be a clear balance. And it's good that now there's a law. So it has to go according to what the law is. And it's important that all of us, including industries and all of that, pay attention to that, so that as that is being implemented, we ensure that nobody takes undue advantage of it, either on the side of the government. Neither are also the criminals seeing a loophole in our place and then wanting to come in and do damage to us. So that's definitely something that the law as now has been passed, has included the Lawful Intercept Act now. So I think that the law is quite clear about that, and the directive is still in progress as we speak now. In terms of the operators, the equipment that has to be acquired and all of that is still in flux. It's not been finally done yet, but the law states, and I'm sure Albert will be able to speak to a bit of that, looking at what the law says. But I'm pretty sure, because this law, the BNC now, I think their name have changed, that they are mandated to operationalize that portion of it, and I'm sure there's an engagement that we as operators will be doing with. But I'll leave Albert to deal specifically with what the law says.
Base infrastructure. Thank you. I think let's try to separate two things from the critical information infrastructure from the issue of interception. Ken has spelled out that something ought to trigger something. there ought to be a trigger that will lead to judicial approval, clearance before interception can be done. But folks, also focus more on the safeguards, and that is why I was trying to read about the inspectors and the safeguards which are in. These things are normal. We've rather introduced a rule-based approach to regulate the sector. That's the benefit. And read through get a lawyer, very specific, elaborate. You won't find this law. Elsewhere, it's just written one word, and anybody decides what they want to do. But here you have the procedures well spelled out. You also have the inspectors making sure it's not abuse. Another safeguard can mention about potential insiders from your end. Check the consequences. If you are an internal person and you abuse the process, here is not administrative penalty. It's what? A criminal penalty. I wish the industry, but I'm encouraging you to look at the safeguards, and then you can feel comfortable around some of these provisions. But the issue of critical information infrastructure, which can also shed its point on what needs to be done. The law makes duty of owner of a critical information infrastructure. It is there. This is 39. You need to report the incident to, if you have a sector, in your case, you're going to have a sector, like the NCA. So it goes through that process. You have to cause an audit also to be performed. This is necessary. So these things are well captured under this particular provision. What can mean is we are working on the directive, because minister won't just come out and say, I have designated you. There are certain processes that are being built, which we are roping you in to see how, this is just a law. Remember, we are even going to do LI as well, okay? But the directive will be clear enough to provide certain guidance as to how you proceed. But your basic responsibility is basically here. Report when you have that incident, that your copper or your fiber, this has happened. And we need to trace it, identify who the perpetrator is. And there is a punishment, consequences for people who also undermine those critical information infrastructures. When the report is made, the regulatory investigations take place, we establish culpability. Then the sanctions, not just corporate liability in terms of fines, but the directors could also be held what? Accountable. So all those things are well captured in the law. Is that fairly okay? Thank you.
What about the gentleman? The question? The question relation to how can you help grow the cyber ecosystem?
Is it Mr. Echo? Yes. Okay. And he mentioned he belongs to a certain association, right? I think that is very good. This is once again community-based initiative. Even though you've not been compelled to set up, you brought yourself together. See this, the implementation of the Act as a way of further enhancing the profile of the association that you have started. I've already mentioned that to practice cybersecurity profession, whichever credential you have, you need to go through certain accreditation process within the authority. So that is becoming more easier. You're able to identify members who are in good standing, that they are accredited by the regulator to exercise the business of cybersecurity in this country. And remember, I think the professionals will tell you how engineering started. This man has a title engineer, and his name, it started ad hoc manner. Chartered accountant doesn't just get their charter just by that. So once you have the Act, once the Act is trying to organize you into a body of professionals, you are likely eventually even win yourself off and become a separate entity altogether to exercise that profession. I foresee this happening even within our time. Thank you.
Our final round of questions. We'll start with Yvonne from MTN.
So I'm Doreen.
Doreen,
Not Yvonne.
okay. Forgive me.
So, Doctor, while you were speaking, you did mention that Ghana has many laws, but then we lack compliance. And you also did mention that non-compliance will have penalties, but then the overall goal is to get compliance. Now, the Cybersecurity Act, the Section 59, says that the authority shall monitor compliance by both the public and then private sectors. So my questions are, one, how does the authority intend to ensure this compliance? Two, how often are these compliance checks going to be done? So for instance, you mentioned that if there are any incidents, they need to be reported within 24 hours. So assuming an industry member records an incident, they don't report it, how is the authority going to know about it? Thank you.
You want to pass the microphone on to the gentleman on this table? This very one, yes. From Airtel Tigo. You want to turn it on?
Okay. My name is Emmanuel from Airtel Tigo. My first question is for Mr. Ken. It's about our movement from within these 5 years from 37% to 80, around 87%. That has enabled us to achieve being ranked where we find ourselves now. I want to ask, what did we do for us to be able to get there? And how are we going to be able to maintain or even be able to move forward in this direction? So that is the first question. My second one is about our digitization initiatives. When it comes to standardization, I think in the presentation I saw some of the standardization issues that we have, especially when you come to the government agencies, where an agency within an agency sometimes are using different standards, different solutions and stuff. What are we going to do to be able to prevent this particular thing? Because there is cost implications into these kind of things as well too, and it's hurting us as a country and as agencies as well too. So what are we going to do to be able to help resolve this particular issue? My third one is about in your presentation about the critical gaps. I didn't see in our analysis and our assessment, I didn't see lack of expertise being one of the findings that you've that brought about some of these findings. So, but basically, I think in the presentation later, I saw some expertise coming in and stuff. I think it is really key, because as a nation, we really need to make sure that cybersecurity is taken very seriously. I've seen some of our agencies or private organizations trying to start the education of IT from the base. Our schools are primary schools, and then heading towards our our secondary schools. But I think we need to incorporate cybersecurity as part of it. We don't just teach the people IT, but when we start young, we will build them up for them to be able to get to where we need to. So let's look at that particular part, how we can be able to train the younger ones, awareness on cybersecururity, so we can be able to get to where we want to. So basically, I think these are my
thank you very much, Totigo. I think I saw a hand here. You're good. Okay, I'm sure the answer came at some point. So we'll take final responses. You want to ask a question? Please make it snappy. You have a minute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Godwin from Huawei. My question will be with regards to, sorry. I think when Honorable was speaking, he was talking about, okay, I think it was the other one, with regards to the US issue. I think we're looking at, they had the best firewalls, they had the best security issues, but I think the only issue was regards to the users. So that's where we have the loophole. So my question was to, what are the roadmaps regarding to educating the users? Because we might have the best security system, but the end user mostly is the loophole. So what are we doing in regards to that one?
What are we doing in regards to that one? Doc, your final responses and then you can wrap up. Thank you.
Okay, let me finish before Chief complete. Madam Doreen, that was a tough one. Basically telling me there's improper behavior within your organization. And how do I detect it? I don't want to put my professional cap as in professional what I do. Madam, of course we don't want to get to that level. And as a regulatory body, what I believe is you need to create incentives for compliance. Okay? That is where a lot of developing countries haven't done much. Incentives for compliance is key. And let's deliberate on this. This is key. And you wouldn't, even it's a typical home, the practices that you teach your children will impact on how they behave in certain way. Please, that wisdom that we've all learned from our villages and others are still key, even in our professional work. However, there are multiple ways, madam. Remember, there is a whistleblowing issues here. You wouldn't, because once you do that, you are even going to create problems. We know a trend, okay? For example, and sometimes you may not report. Your colleague sector has reported, the investigation could trace it to you. Remember, I have a specialty in digital forensics. When you investigate a network or even a computer system, it can lead you to other places where similar things have happened. You wouldn't want to, as a body, and in digital environment, there are always traces. If there has been exchanges on the incident within your environment, you don't know where that information is going to. So I will not. And this is where when we sit down, we need to be very clear so that that kind of thinking doesn't even come in. But there are several ways that over a period of time, such measures can be detected. Where people also sit, you can look at a pattern. There's a regular reporting about ransomware in this particular area. But you, for the past 6 months, everything is clean. The law mandates the authority to trigger an audit. Okay, so there are several mechanisms, but I wouldn't want us even to get to that level. But the law has to be in place to deal with some of the issues. Thank you for giving me such a difficult case study to handle. The other one said the name, is it Mr. is not around? There was a question here.
Yes, the gentleman from Emmanuel.
Is it Sir Emmanuel?
Yes, Emmanuel. But Totigo.
Where is he?
No, it's him. Emmanuel
from Okay.
That's him.
How do we get 86%? I don't like telling my own story. It's not good to answer. It sounds as if there's a term to say that. But I want to say, you did well. He pushed it to me. He did very well. It's very, very true. But give me opportunity. It's even pass, okay? But the ranking by ITU is not for nothing. I want to start from top. The first determinant is political commitment. Please, later on, go and research about it. When this government took over 2017, 2018 Cyber Month, we did that with one of your executives. Ghana is the only African continent that a certain president has led cybersecurity development awareness creation at the national level 2 consecutive years. You know why that was done? It later attracted international support and attention. World Bank came in, they supported Council of Europe, UNICEF, and all that. It has investment, it has support. US government came in. Let me start from the political commitment level. That is what you need. And I think we got it. Private sector stakeholders were involved in the planning. The gentleman, the first time, we fought on a few occasions on money. The chamber needed to bring more money. He doesn't want to bring that. But I just want to give this credit. It's not just government. It's government engaging with private sector to achieve that. Because it's a common win for all of us. Following there, if you follow, the Vice President launched a national awareness campaign, the Safer Digital Ghana. We're talking about training awareness creation. I didn't want to mention. In 2019, we trained more than 40,000 school children across all the 16 regions. Folks, as a developing country, that was massive. Somebody might think, well, Ghana is 31 million, so 40,000. The school children, those who are quite vulnerable, those young girls and boys who are putting all their things on social media, that was done. accession to the Budapest Convention, Malabo, Ghana is the 3rd country on the whole continent to have ratified these 2 conventions. Other African countries haven't gotten it. The law that we have now is only Mauritius and few other countries. Not more than 8 African countries have comprehensive cybersecurity legislations in place. Somebody mentioned, KPMG mentioned about Bank of Ghana. They have a certain system, the directive, the NCA, we launched the security set. NITA launched security operations system. These are critical things. The judges, and I want to conclude there because I can't list all the things we've done. 5 years ago, it wasn't possible. You are not likely to hear a Supreme Court judge talking about electronic evidence. Did you follow the last election petition? If you follow, the issue of electronic evidence, electronic records were all over the place. About more than half of the sitting judges, I think about 80%, have all been trained on cybercrime electronic evidence, including the Chief Justice. It has changed. I mean, you have to be a lawyer or a practitioner within the criminal justice system to understand how huge getting your Supreme Court judges recognize and accept electronic evidence. I think this will not be a forum. In fact, I don't have a permission to come and talk about achievement. My minister has sent me to work, seriously, so I came to work and I will leave that conversation later on. But I think a lot of things have gone into the ranking. Standardization is a big issue. I want to complete quickly. NITA is working on a regulatory framework. NITA regulates the broader ICT subsector. Okay, so all the IT class is going to be a point, at the point NITA will become like the controller. You know, in the public sector institution, controllers send their staff to do accounting and things. NITA will be sitting in every MDA. Okay, so the IT issues, were with Ken somewhere else last week. And we saw technology. In fact, one of the discoveries was even data center development, the trend is changing. Data centers now have their inbuilt fire detection and all those things. If you don't take care, a provider will just come and dump a certain data center that is no more compliant. But you need NITA to be in the middle as a regulator to provide that guidance. So that is also ongoing. To complete on that expertise, I did mention about that. There are 2 issues in this particular case. We have certain expertise, especially people who stayed abroad, and Ghanaians are quite active in cybersecurity abroad. They make contact on a daily basis, so I can tell you. They are. US, Europe, they are. My problem is affordability. Right? At that level, in terms of getting people to lead that development, they are quite expensive. Find out how US is paying them, how much we are able to pay. But across board, in terms from the lower to the middle level, I agree with you, we need to really do a lot of work to make sure that we get the people in. And the roadmap for education of users, I think you answered, you asked that. Government has done what it can within the last 4 years with what the Vice President launched, in 2018. But I did give a response to my colleague David from the ICT professionals. We should have more of private sector stakeholder, ISACA groupings, ICT professionals, these NGOs, to cover, quite a huge number with respect to what government alone can cover. But I think the determination is government alone has covered a certain space. And maybe we need to talk more with you to see what ideas we can have to extend that awareness approach. I think at this point, I'll conclude by thanking all of you to have made it both physically and virtually. I believe this conversation should be ongoing, I must say. And once again, the key word here is we're going to use collaborative approach to implement this. Let's see this as the best investment. Cybersecurity should be considered as the best investment to guarantee our digital transformation. And we should do so by collaboratively engaging even on the difficult questions. Let's talk about them. Let's give ourselves timelines when we think we cannot do it today. Which one do we have to do today? But when we agree we have to do today, it has to be done. I think that is where I want to conclude, sir. Thank you so much, Chamber.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for Dr. Albert Ntribo-Sioko. Ken, you want to give final comments?
Well, thank you very much, and we are grateful to all of you who have also participated online, and we thank Albert and the team from the Cybersecurity Center. And increasingly as we're discussing this, I think that we all have roles to play in ensuring the issues of awareness creation. We might also have to engage again on this lawful intercept acting as it develops. It's another area that we really need to look at. I think for me, another area we should look at is how together with industry, we can support in educating our children from starting from school. So maybe for the members of the chamber and who have experts, we might have to take this as a CSR activity that we do, where we can have a target on an annual basis, what training we give, to the children back at school. Interestingly, before we came here, I saw a program that KNUST we're going to start on AI and another program, and they have cybersecurity in there at the master's level. It is important that we encourage our training institutions to start developing the standards that are necessary, so that we don't always have to be dependent on accreditation bodies who are outside us, who might miss some of the context issues. So we should be able to collaborate between industry and our educational institutions to be able to come up with some of these accreditations that could also become global, and it would be ways of also being able to export some of these accreditations, at least through the AFTA. It could be one of the things that as Ghana we also could be trading in with others. So thank you all very much for coming in, and for those of you who have also been on the call, we are very grateful for your support.
A round of applause for Dr. Engineer Kenneth Ashigbe. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time here this morning with us. I think for me, my takeaway has largely been that cybersecurity itself is a collaborative agenda, it's a collaborative work between everyone. And also one of the key things I gleaned from the conversations that we've had is the fact that everybody needs a certain level of awareness and sensitization when it comes to cybersecurity. I know there are so many courses, so many practical tools online that people can be able to take and engage themselves with to be able to pick a thing or two when it comes to safeguarding ourselves on the digital space. We have friends who are participating also online on YouTube and on Facebook. We say thank you. We'll take your comments if there are any, and we'll deal with them later on as well. And also for our friends from the Agents Association who said we didn't invite them, we are equally sorry. We wish we could. Unfortunately, we have a very small room, and we are also bearing in mind the social distancing rules. It's very rare to go to or attend an event where nobody takes off their mask. I saw some people even eating with their mask on. How they did it, I don't know. Would like to say thank you for your adherence to the protocols, and on behalf of the Governing Council of the Chamber, and then of course our members, the National Cybersecurity Center, soon to be authority, our friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, we say thank you very much. God be with us till we meet soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello.
Hello. Umami ni London.
Mambe.
Oh, Umkame. Umame. Ni London no.
Auntie Becky Anna.
Hey, Miss Umkame. Hey, what to say?
I understand I started with a prayer, so I have to end with a prayer.
Oh, Nyamia Domobia Hoye, and also.
Ah, you done Yamiasi. Hey, but so are your mommy penny.
Oh, and Yami, yes.
Hey, baby, when you baby, Madame for people, Bagana.
Hey, sir.
Timmy John, I'm a mayor supplies.
Sir?
Aye, shoe size Ben Aushe.
38.
Oh, me tall 40 close.
Oh, in the case, what's me a share?
Oh, sir.
Eh.
Natari.
And this size 12.
Eh, I didn't even know pepe.
Oh, really?
Madam for no bedroom Ghana 4 days new.
Okay.
It's make a chance on for what? Me mania kula kaka.
Hey, that's very
Tiny shoes and kwa. Kaka cribishimu. And more be on Sase.
Matilda. And one knee.
Over for a while.
You want to say? I'm sure.
Yo, bye bye.
Bye. Hey.
Where, Gina? Gina, but there's no confirm Bona. I've been calling you, sir. I'm not picking a call.
I was on a call. Do you know what has happened?
I don't know.
See, my auntie that I said that she's in London like 15 years now. I've not heard from her. She just called me.
Where did you go and sleep?
Ask me. I don't even know.
Is she coming to take you?
No. But she's sending us things.
No, wait.
Why have you stopped?
Wait. Gina, Neko auntie, when she called you, did she mention any other person's name?
I don't remember anything like that. But how does that matter?
Matter so. Use Moicho. This is the new way people are using to fraud people.
Fraud?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Come on, bomb me like am I sure?
Wait, she said the person will call me in 5 minutes time.
Yo, boy, about what they want Cantamanto and Mimi Yoya. I'm not gonna waste my time.
Wait. Hello? Yes, this is Gina. Man say you're bringing me the things.
I am Mama Nyama. Sisia de min kiteska me so ameni mobile money. Inti se obetumi am wano eya na me de usika na ma.
I don't put in the papa no.
Car tire na pai.
Ne car tire pai. Into here be say.
Oh, here be say 200 cedis.
200 cedis. Hey. Thank you. Hey, someone just withdrew money from my account.
Account? What account? Facebook?
Look, let's be serious.
Mobile
Money account. Someone just withdrew money.
Are you sure?
I just got a notification.
Are you sure you don't ask anyone to do so?
No, I didn't send anyone to do that.
Hey, sir, you relax and check. Well, okay.
Telco has stolen my money. Let me call them.
Oh, Telco cannot just steal your money just like that. Okay. I mean, are you sure you did not buy anything online and you use mobile money to pay?
I didn't buy anything.
Okay, fine. How about subscribing for a service that requires mobile money deduction?
Which service in Ghana will cost you 2,000 cedis?
2,000 Ghana cedis?
I need to call Telco.
In fact, this one, let's make the police case.
Let's call Telco first.
Yes, fine. But before that, are you sure you're the only one who knows your account details?
Boss.
No, I'm talking about your mobile money PIN.
I am the only one. Who will?
Relax, take your time.
Hey God, I've been careless.
What is it?
A week ago, there's this errand boy that comes around. So he was running an errand for a colleague, and I sent him with my phone and my PIN to withdraw money from me. It was an emergency.
So you trust a stranger that much to give him your PIN?
I needed help.
You needed help? What kind of help?
He didn't do it that day.
Of course. If you hadn't done that job, it's so obvious. If you had a thief, would you have done it that day?
So what do I do now?
Change your mobile money PIN to prevent further deduction. So you have 2,000 cedis.
Now, with mobile phone, I can just call them and tell them I'm bringing a patient, so they should prepare a bed waiting for the patient to come in. And also, whenever we want to transfer a patient to a different hospital, maybe 37, Kolebu or Ridge, you have to just call their hotline, telling them that we are bringing a patient to them, so they should receive the patient for us. I just call the ambulance and tell them that they should come and take an emergency to a different hospital for us. When a patient comes